of gender-based violence, which he noted remain prevalent across many parts of the country.
Most important issue we must deal with in the next few months is to make sure that, Your Excellency, we deal with the issue of goons across the country. And I must say this, Your Excellency, this must be done without fear or favor. It must be done indiscriminately.
Wale ambao wanatumia vijana kama wahuni, watu ambao wanatumika kulete fujo, kupiganisha wananchi, kulete maafa, hawa ni watu ambao hatuwezi kukubali. Na nishamueleza Inspector General wetu wa polisi kwamba watu hawa wote lazima wachukuliwe hatua kali za kisheria, ndio tukomeshe uhuni na mambo ambayo yanaharibu usalama katika taifa letu la Kenya.
As Kenyans prepare to travel up country this festive season, the government has announced stricter enforcement of traffic rules and reduce road accidents during Christmas and New Year.
The new measures were agreed upon during a meeting in Nairobi between the National Transport and Safety Authority, police and transport stakeholders.
Motorists should expect alcohol checks along major highways, including the Nairobi-Mombasa and the Nairobi-Malaba routes, and the return of mobile courts to ensure immediate penalties for traffic violations.
In a move to curb corruption, the government has also introduced a toll-free number that allows the public to report errant traffic officers by submitting videos and location details.
And any member of the public who happen to see an officer engaging himself in a corrupt practice, even if he's a passenger seated and the vehicle is stopped, then he can peep in and see that road sign, and then he do what? Then he called the relevant number, toll-free numbers. And even now, I've been receiving videos of officers receiving bribes along the public roads. I can even show you one here if you want. Honest members of the public have been sending me those videos, and we normally take what? We normally take action. And I would like members of the public to complain where they have reported and action has not been taken. I welcome that.
This was therefore to agree together that we do not want any Kenyan to lose their lives during this festive season, and therefore we recommit to do, each stakeholder to do their responsibilities, so that then for speed limiters, they have to ensure that speed limiters that are fitted in all vehicles provided for in law actually limit speed.
Nearly 20,000 secondary school teachers whose one-year contracts are set to expire this December have criticized the government for going against previous agreements regarding their employment. According to the Teachers Union in Vihiga County, the original agreement indicated that teachers who successfully completed a year of service under contract would be offered permanent positions. However, the government has remained silent on the matter. And President William Ruto, who had earlier hinted at changes in policy regarding the hiring of these teachers, has yet to clarify the government's stance.
For the past 1 year, we have served diligently. We have taught with passion. We have mentored. We have prepared the future of thousands of kids across the nation, across our nation. However, our future is uncertain. Our future hangs in limbo. I want to address, first of all, I want to address CS Mbadi. In 2025-2026 budgetary allocation, 7.2 billion were allocated for, JS staffing. And these teachers are learned. From the 7.2 billion, around 2.88 billion are used for recruitment of the new cohort of interns that are coming in. The 4.32 billion, where is it going? Comrade Power! Now I'm inviting the Teacher Service Commission to explain to us how they are going to use this amount. This amount was supposed to confirm us.
Mongoose power! 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 So here in terms of Vihiga County, we are here to represent our demands and also the demands of our entire nation, the teachers fraternity. We are here as a third nation because we signed a one-year contract. Comrades Power! Power! We signed a one-year contract. We are a frustrated group of teachers because After the 1-year contract, we are here being told that we have to renew. I'm very disappointed in the fact that the president and also the so-called the CS of education is also unaware that we signed a 1-year contract. Mogu's power. Mogu's power. Is this fair?
No.
No. Is this fair?
No. Na tumesikia rais akisema ya kwamba mwezi wa Januari anaenda kuajiri walimu wengine 20,000 ambao ni walimu wapya. Kumaanisha wakati hao wataajiriwa, hao watakuwa wamepoteza hata ile mkataba ambao wako nayo. Kwa hivyo tunataka tukumbushe rais ya kwamba ile agreement ambayo ilikuwa nayo internship ni ya mwaka moja. Internship ni mwaka moja. Ni mwaka moja. Kama internship imeisha mwaka moja, the only thing the government should do and which they have to do is to confirm this teacher.
Dear Member of Parliament George Kariuki has dismissed claims by the opposition leaders that the recent Mbeere North by-election was rigged, describing the accusations as baseless and a sign of leaders unwilling to accept defeat.
Speaking at St. Faith SCK Mutino Church in their constituency, Kariuki said the outcome of the by-election reflected the clear will of the people of Mbeere North.
He urged opposition figures to carry out honest self-reflection instead of, as he put it, creating excuses after losing at the ballot.
The legislator maintained that any party dissatisfied with the conduct of the election should seek legal redress through the courts rather than issuing public allegations.
According to Kariuki, the electoral process was peaceful and credible, with voters freely expressing their choice.
Upinzani ama mtu yeyote akipoteza kura, badala ajiulize ni wapi alipanga vibaya ama ni wapi hakuweka bidii. Yeye ni mbio kwanza kuongea juu ya vile uchaguzi imeimbiwa. Hii hakuna uchaguzi imeimbiwa. Uchaguzi tulipiga kura sisi wote na tukapata mwenye aliwin. Na kama kura iliimbiwa, si mwenye ameimbiwa anajua anaweza enda kotini na atafute huko vile atasaidika. Lakini wananchi wakaamua wanataka kukaa ndani ya serikali. Sasa kuna mtu hapa kwetu eneo hili letu huwa anafikiria yeye ndiye anafanya watu wetu waelekee mahali wanaelekea. Hakuna mtu ako na hii community, ameshika hii community na ataipeleka kwa munanda vile anafikiria. Wamejificha sasa, wameingia kwa mashimo, wamejificha, na tunaambia tokeni hiyo mashimo, kujeni sasa, muombe msamaha, mkuje, mutupigie makofi, mkubali tumewashinda, na sisi tuendelee mbele kujenga nchi. Nimesikia kuna mtu anashinda akiambia watu tuko na milioni 8 sisi hapa Mount Kenya. Ukweli wa mambo ni kwamba hatuna hiyo milioni 8. Ile kura tulipeana 2022, Raila tukampea 13% ya 7 million. Hiyo ukifanya hesabu hiyo ni milioni 1. Pare President William Ruto akiwa candidate wetu tukampea 47% of 7.2 million. Hiyo ni 3.3 million. Uki add up hizo mbili utapata the Mount Kenya 2022, mwaka wa 2022 tulipeana kura 4.3. Hiyo kura 4.3 hatuwezi toa rais tukiwa peke yetu. Lazima tuungane na Wakenya wengine, lazima tuondoe ukabila, lazima tuondoe chuki, lazima tuondoe makasiriko, lazima tuondoe siasa mbaya, tukae mahali tutasaidika, na mahali mimi naona tutasaidika ni mahali serikali tutakuwa tunaunda. Ikifika huko 2032, tukitomboa 2027, 2032 tuanze kujipanga sasa tena kurudi State House. Lakini tukianza sasa kukaa kando tutapoteza direction na tutaenda njia mbaya.
Former Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has strongly condemned the violent disruption of a church service attended by former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in Kariobangi on Sunday.
He decried the incident as a threat to the rule of law in a country that prides itself on upholding legal order.
Speaking at the St. Peter's Cathedral in Keno, Matiang'i criticized the chaos which erupted when rival groups clashed outside the church, prompting police to deploy tear gas to disperse the crowd.
He vowed to restore order in what he described as a nation gone off the rails. During his address, Matiang'i also announced his intention to run for the presidency in the 2027 general elections.
He pledged to bring stability and reinforce the rule of law across the country.
In the wrong direction as a country. So we fought for independence. We are an independent country with our constitution. How will you go to a church? Wewe hata niambie. Au unaingia kanisa na mnagani na polisi kupiga watu tia kazi kwa kanisa? Hata yule ambaye anatoroka, tafadhali mwambie arudi haraka atoke uroki, sababu sisi how can we live like that as a country? Bishop kama hao wazee wanatuongoza hapa, watu wa Mungu wameweka mikono wanatuzungumzia eti kuingia hapa kuwapiga tia kazi yao. What is happening kasumba ile ya kuswaya mpaka umelewa na uongozi na nguvu. You're trying to power.
Members of the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers KUPPET in Migori County have raised objections over a decision by the union's national office to change the venue for the upcoming county elections.
The teachers have urged the KUPPET national leadership, headed by Secretary General Okello Misori, to reverse the decision to shift the voting venue for the 2026 KUPPET elections.
The polls are scheduled to be held on January 10th, 2026.
And according to the teachers, the national office altered the voting location from Migori Teachers Training College, TTC, to Awendo Stadium in Awendo Town without providing an explanation for the change.
They say the lack of consultation and justification has caused concern among candidates seeking election and re-election to various union positions at the county level.
The affected members argue that Migori TTC had already been agreed upon as the polling venue and is more suitable and accessible for teachers across the county.
They fear the sudden change could disrupt logistical planning and potentially affect participation in the electoral process.
KUPPET election scheduled for January 10th. I want to comment about the venue. It's like the venue is scheduled to be at Sony in a field. That football pitch, which is just fenced, the place is not secure in terms of security. We are concerned, particularly the female teachers. The election may take place until long in the evening, and the teachers will want to wait for the results. How guaranteed is our security? Because we know Awendo, with some of the news we hear over the radio and television, security is a big concern to majority of the teachers. Two, the reason why we want this election to be brought to a central place, which is Migori town, is because of logistical challenges. You know, we love to use fare. Imagine teachers coming from Kuria West, Kuria East, traversing Migori town all the way to Awendo. That will be a lot of cost on their side. So it means this is going to be a barrier to majority of the teachers to go there and vote. In other words, the teachers' democratic right to choose the KUPPET representatives will be violated.
It's unfair for someone to change the venue of election by saying that TTC is being used by the student teachers to rig elections. That is unfair. TTC is centrally placed, and it is even what is used by IBC for the county tallying headquarters. How can it be that those big elections have never been manipulated in the TTC? It is the TTC where all government functions are done, and therefore it has served the teachers of Migori, and it is unfair to use the Migori TTC name in a wrong way, tagging students that are innocent, that they can be used to rig teachers' elections. That is unfair.
Let the voting center be at a central place, and that is the usual place, which is Migori Teachers Training College. That will be a central place, and it will be comfortable with each and everyone from all the sub-counties.
Changing of venue of voting from Migori TTC to Awendo Stadium is totally unfair to teachers who come from far-flung areas like Nyateke, because it disadvantages us that we have to travel very lengthy distances so that we can reach the voting venue. After the voting, counting of votes takes a lot of time, and at times it ends very late in the night. How do we expect that these teachers will travel back to where they came from? I want to totally disagree with the national office for changing the voting venue
from Migori TTC to Nyateke Green Stadium. We are insisting that the voting venue be reversed back to Migori TTC.
We know very well that all Kuppet elections from the time of inception, all those elections have been held in Migori Teachers Training College. The time that our Secretary General was being elected for the first time, that election was held in Migori TTC. In 2011, it was the same venue. 2016, 2021, why change the venue now? We want to register our protest. Why? Because Awendo has been known for violence. Awendo Green Stadium, there are no basic amenities like washrooms are not there. There are no rooms. There is nothing there. Plus electricity. So what is going to happen? When we finish voting at 6, then we start counting. By the way, last time we voted, we finished counting votes at 10 p.m. and there were only 10 positions. Now we are going for 14 positions. Most likely, we are going to finish the exercise maybe by midnight or 1.
All right, so the grievances from teachers continue even as they gear up for the elections of union officials across the country. At that point, we'd love to take a quick break. Then when we come back, we'll be coming back with the newspapers to just look what is making headlines this morning.
Thank you. Please don't go too far. And we're still thanking you for your voting because we marched #1 for the best TV station of the year, Christian TV station of the year, and the best radio station of the year. Thank you for voting. Please don't go too far. We have more for you.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world. You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
EBN TV cares about the growth of your business. To advertise with us, call 0725 386 501 or 0740 653 453. EBN TV, transforming your world.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Dailies this morning. We'd love to hear from you as well concerning some of these issues that we'll be talking about. Our SMS line is open to 3059. Let's begin with the Daily Nation, which is on matters education this morning. So, top of the page, Daily Nation, when public schools leave the poor behind. When public schools leave the poor behind. That is the top page story. Now, the state has been faulted for failing to increase funding to match inflation. So, a new report has exposed inequalities in Kenya's education system, where a majority of learners in public schools lag behind those in private institutions due to inadequate funding, due to teacher shortages and congestion. Now, the Oxfam study also reveals how children from poor families are disadvantaged, reducing their chances at a better life. Now, in Kenya, the grim reality is that 1.13 million children of primary school going age are out of school. 1.13 million children are not in school, and nearly half of secondary school going students are not accessing secondary education at the appropriate age. Now, we talk about education and how it's an investment in human capital. And with the investment in human capital, really it's all about quality, because the leaders of tomorrow, it's also about quality. talk about the brilliant minds of tomorrow, you know, the CEOs of tomorrow, talk about the doctors of tomorrow, the lawyers, the engineers, the journalists of tomorrow. It's all about the quality of, the kind of education that they will be consuming and the quality of education that they will be exposed to. So as we speak in Kenya, the reality is that a child in private school is likely to access more quality education, more one-on-one sessions with the teachers compared to that child in a public school. Now, a simple math is, if you look at just the number of students in public schools classes, for example, back in the days in my class, were about 60 children in a class, right? But this could be different from a private school, which could have less students. You could find perhaps 30 students in a class. And then, you know, they've got perhaps the same number of teachers, and they have that one-on-one learning, can go for consultations easily. There's that gap that has already been filled. But the reality is that public schools is almost like a dumping ground, that, you know, we're not able to afford the cost of learning in a private school. For example, if you talk about a private secondary school or a private high school, it's quite expensive. It's quite on a high, and so that fee is not you know, I'd say affordable to a lot of parents, and so they prefer to take them to public schools where, you know, the government caters for a certain amount and then the parent caters for a certain amount. But this also changes as well, because the government is not fulfilling its end of the bargain and is not disbursing money as soon as it can, or they owe a lot of schools money to the tunes of billions of shillings. So when public schools leave the poor behind, so in public schools, you know, let's keep it rolling, and that is where perhaps the biggest gap is at now. 1.13 million children at the moment are out of school, and that's a huge number. I mean, look at 1 million children who are not able to access education because of, you know, poverty, and you know, it's quite a worrying trend.
Yes, Cynthia, this figure and that story and kind of revelation here looks very pathetic for such a country, and we are almost at the 10th year of devolution, and this is to mean resources have been devolved, and you can resources can be accessible from every part of this country. And give an example, just few during the by-elections campaigns around Beber North or around that region, we saw a very dilapidated situation of a school, and also moving all the way to some parts of Kitui around Mwingi somewhere there, we saw another a school. It's actually it's made of mud, and it's like it's also broken. So you can see pupils and students learning sitting on stones and maybe on logs. And as I've mentioned, this is almost stretching to the 11th year of devolution. And what we are looking at is that we're looking at some regions being so marginalized, some regions being not put into considerations as far as capitation is concerned. And these things are taking me back to the place of the ghost schools and ghost peoples, whereby some few weeks ago we did the math and we found that it's like every ghost people is getting like 100,000 from money that is just being squandered from one point to the other, from stakeholders to the others, from maybe the issues of TAC. So this is to mean that if we don't invest as far into educational sector, if we don't invest into the young people, I think we shall be getting back into the days whereby you could not access technology, you could not access maybe materials for you to learn. And doing a comparison of the political side of it, and maybe the issue of these poor families who are not able to access education just in public institutions. This is to clearly show that there is a gap whereby the leaders that you have are not delivering. They are not coming up to the promises that they gave to people. Then getting back to these children, this is to mean they will never grow up to the requirements or even qualifications that we need for them to become leaders, because basically they've not got the requirements or even the basic foundation and the founding that maybe such a student becoming a leader at maybe at latter age could qualify.
Yeah, and takes me back to the conversations we've been having about the education funding.
Yeah.
Now, you've got an MCA who gives bursaries.
Yeah.
You've got a member of parliament who gives bursaries. You've got a women representative who gives bursaries. You've got a county governor who gives bursaries. Now, the conversation has been, if this is the situation in schools, why can we not just have an education kitty where all these bursaries and all this money falls into one account under one kitty and make education free? Because if you look at CDF, for example, and how much a constituency gets, pardon me, I was looking at, if I'm not wrong, should be either Makadara constituency or just a constituency within Makadara, where they've got about 125 million shillings worth of CDF, the National Government Constituency Development Fund. And out of this, there's a certain percentage that will go to matters education. The governor also, the county governments do sponsorship or scholarships for kids. So why not just harmonize all this money, because it's a lot of money, and just have education free, so that all this money is just sent out to schools, let children go to school and learn. Because the gap is quite huge. Talk about with the emergence of the CBC and how much it has accommodated technology, and how they have to have laptops and have to have tablets. How many public schools can authoritatively stand and say, we've got this number of tablets that are used by learners? You may compare this to private schools where the parents may have the liberty to purchase a tablet, or the schools may have the liberty to purchase a tablet, but those in public schools are likely to be left behind. I'm not saying it is the same for all private schools. There are obviously those that are also still struggling, but it's just the disparity is quite high. It's quite high. And I remember growing up, we had the questions on, are you from a private or public school? Because once you're from a private school, people feel like you're from a different planet. And yet, you're all, going through the same curriculum. And better taught. I mean, it's just, it's quite worrying. And if you look at just the level of corruption in the country and the amount of money we keep on talking about that has been lost, that, is not being invested, that, it's just mysteriously disappearing. And then you have this kind of report that says 1 million children are not in class at the moment.
How many schools are those in there?
I mean, there's so many. There's so many schools. And it's just a worrying state of affairs, really, that speaks to the level of education in the country and how serious we take human capital.
See, I'm getting back to our times. Maybe just a few years ago, when you used to go to primary school, then you go to school and you are paraded, then you are called your names. If you have not cleared your fees, you're supposed to get back to get fees. If you don't find the fees, you have to come back with your parents. And if the parents are not home, sometimes or even they're at home, they don't have an explanation to this, why they don't have fees and why they're not paying the fees. They say that they won't come. I remember just like you could meet like 2 to 3 schools who have been sent for fees, and you see how the roads around the villages are just filled with pupils who are sent fees. Now I'm trying to look at 1.13 million just being out of school because they are lacking fees because of capitation. This may interpret into a very old constituency not going to school, actually our whole constituency.
Actually, because if you look at the number of students that sat for their KCSE just this year, there were about 900,000. So this
countrywide.
Countrywide. So 1.13 million equates to a candidate class for the whole year across all 47 counties. This means every single county is affected. And there's also a particular interest as well in ASAL's region, pastoralist region. This is largely the northeastern region, where they have some of the highest levels of out-of-school children. And children in Nairobi have an average of 11.2 years of schooling. In Turkana, they have 5.4 years. This means regions like Turkana, Wajir, Mandera, Garissa, these are places where they're already dealing with climatic changes and climatic conditions. Talk about
lack of water.
Lack of water. This is a region where some of them have never seen story buildings before because of just where they are at. And so if you look at this, also points to the fact that Northeastern has also been, I'd say, ignored for the better part of the countries, since independence. And, this is a region where you get children who are in school just for 5 years. The rest, they're out with their parents, they're out doing pastoralist activities, they're out, just trying to survive, basically. They do not have access to education because already their situation is quite dire. So that region has also been highlighted as a region that has been really ignored. So, I mean, this report is quite damning and it's quite worrying because if you want to have brilliant minds in the next 10 years, you need to invest with people who are in class today. How will you get a CEO of a bank in 10 years or even 20 years if they do not have access to education now? How will you get a leader or a president in 20 years who has not accessed a classroom now? So it's quite like a ripple effect. And I'd hope that one day we'd have a conversation in Kenya where we've harmonized the education fund. Let us not have different bursaries, because even accessing the bursaries themselves, you need to have connections.
Sure.
I mean, you go to your MCA and they ask umetumwa na nani?
Why should you be asked that question? Because the MCA is there to serve you, and they ask such questions. So I'm looking at a point where you are talking about harmonizing the account or even the education kitting, but I'm looking at the issues that we're grappling with around this country, because every time you find something just carelessly put or placed, you have to go Peter with it. And we'll be able to control these kitties in there. We'll be able to disperse. We'll be able to say that maybe some maybe 500 pupils from northeastern region, maybe they deserve this because we want to maybe uplift them education-wise. We want to make sure that this region becomes a bit, they become elite and they become bright enough to make sure that they can control themselves, they can develop themselves, because suppose we have maybe 100 CEOs and from maybe northeastern region. We're looking at it being arid and semi-arid region. We're looking at it, maybe there are some leaders who may come in and say that we need to do bigger irrigation. We need to find how we can dig dams for ourselves so that we can uplift the status of this region. But if you deny all these students just capitation, and I'm looking at it and finding that maybe I'm illegally, let me use that word, eating like 100 million. And I'm very sure that this is not my money, and I know many people's and kids are suffering. They're not going to school. How am I helping myself? How am I helping a situation?
So that's the top page story. I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts concerning this, and perhaps where do you think as a future we are heading to, as a country, where we are heading to. Now also, top of the page, a bit political as well. Gachagua rattles his opposition allies with Nairobi zoning plan. A fresh storm has hit the united opposition after former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua unveiled a zoning plan that would bar affiliate parties from fielding candidates for governor, MP, and MCA positions in Nairobi. Now, zoning is always a big headache, especially going into the elections, and I can imagine how this will also be a headache for the opposition. In other words, in layman's language, we've got an opposition party. We've got the DCP, we've got the DAPK, we've got Wiper, and you've got DP as well as PLP party of Martha Karua. It's a question of which region are you strong, and do you think we should field a candidate there rather than you? So what might have given Gachagua a lot of strength to speak this way is because they won the Kariobangi North MCA seat through the DCP party. And what he says is that Nairobi, if you look at the trend, actually Nairobi is sort of like an opposition county. The trends in how they have been voting, they have always voted for the opposition. That's the majority of votes. So this might have given him the strength to as well speak of zoning, talk about let's say Eastern region, will DCP want to field a candidate or leave it to Wiper? And so Gachagua rattled his opposition allies with Nairobi zoning plan. Now, Nairobi is key. Everyone wants control of Nairobi County. And so it will be interesting to see whether or not they'll come to an agreement. President Ruto for the broad-based government also hinted at zoning and says they agree. They don't want to fight for seats or have candidates run against each other. And that was something that we also saw within the by-elections.
And looking at the issue of opposition, and we're looking at the already and so far impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. It's like he's looking at what Nairobi can do when it comes to elections, and maybe he's trying to see whether he can control it to make sure that maybe with his new party, that is DCP, he may be able to control a bit and make sure that he has got people from his own party in different positions.
Right. So those are some of the stories making headlines this morning, as well as Ruto will deal with goons. This concerning the by-elections and the, I'd say, hooliganism we saw, the violence we saw, the blood that was shed during the by-elections period, and he says his administration will deal with goons and the proliferation of political thugs across the country. Now, there's an expose that was done by a local media on goons for hire, where people are quite unemployed to the level that a politician tells them, I'm giving you 1,000 shillings, go and disrupt so-and-so's meeting, and they will happily take it, go disrupt the meeting. Unfortunately, we've seen some people that have been injured because of this, and there's a level of political intolerance in the country that I'd say is almost line in line or toe in toe with unemployment. That, I do not have access to 1,000 shillings, I do not have a job, but somebody is willing to give me 1,000 shillings just so I can go and disrupt a meeting somewhere. Okay,
I saw that expose, Cynthia, but it is very risky. And I also remember on 27th, where we had the by-elections taking place. I'm looking at someone, he was such a big guy. I think he was sent to disrupt something that was going on in the by-elections. Actually, this guy was attacked to a point of maybe death. And I normally do very simple calculations. You've talked of just 1,000 because of maybe, and one issue may be lack of employment, which is very key to our young people. And these are things that have not been taken into consideration for a very long time. Because the issue of I'll deal with goons, it's okay, we can read it and we can understand it, but how does it take into action? How do we see it coming into action? Because, yes, I'm getting back to the issue of anti-finance bill, when the young people in the name of Gen Zs try to stage protests all around. And there were a lot of promises that will take care of you. And if you remember, there is a guy who went a bit viral and a bit popular by the name Caswell. And later at the day, people tried to think that he's the one leading the young people, but he was later absorbed in ODM party. This is to mean that if maybe you seem to be a bit bright and you can forge something into happening, you just picked from the bigger group and you just leave the other group being fit, or even they're left with a lot of challenges. Like you can remember the children of Israel moving from Egypt to all that place. Now think of if Moses was taken from the group, who could have led them? So this is to mean all what is happening, the kind of promises that our leaders are giving, I think they are not amounting into the kind of promises that we are getting. And now I was talking of the issue of this kind of maths in there, whereby you just given 1,000. Suppose you attacked and killed, where will this 1,000 help you? And I also gave another example of, even if you given just 1 million to go and disrupt someone meeting, or even to go and cause chaos in the name of your goon, how will that 1 million help you if only you killed? Then I also mentioned in the yesterday's expose, I saw these people are saying that if a leader does not have goons, story yake imeisha. That is how it was put. So this is to mean young people who are unemployed. This to mean that is the business that will be just doing for the rest of their lives, and it won't be good. Then Cynthia, the issue of, before you go to that page you're going, the issue of deal with goons. You remember the attack that took place on Sunday, where Gachagua was attending a church service, and a lot of key leaders are just going against what happened. And one, this looks a bit humorous. Someone was saying that the reason as to why Gachagua was not the one being attacked. There were people who were fighting near the church, and that's why they were tear gassed. Now I'm wondering, where could these people fight near where Gachagua is? Where could they have not gone into just a different place? So my question and my concern is very clear. Why do I have to promise that I will deal with I have the authority, I have the power, and maybe I have the financial muscle as a national leader to make sure that maybe if this thing is going overboard, I'm able to control it even without announcing. Let me do it. And after I do it, I'll announce to the people that I'm able to maybe weed some of the cartels or even some of the goons that or even the attacks that have been taking place. So I would say, if these leaders promise something to take place, I wish it is good they follow up to it as soon as possible to make sure that it happens. Again, on the issue of dealing with goons, we saw what happened in Tanzania. It's like you want to remain a key person, just want to remain alone. You have a position that you're vying for. You don't want to see another competitor. You don't want to see opponents. You just want to be alone. What happens? You have to take all these people away to make sure that they don't become vocal, they don't become audible to the people. And what I finish with, we know what we want. Citizens know what they want. So if you feel, or even if you know exactly that people don't feel you, and I quote that, it's very good to exit.
Right. So those are some of the stories on the Daily Nation.
We're moving to the Kenya's born newspaper, The Standard, and we've just got many stories here, but the top story is Hit by Russia's War, and I'll read something very small, then we try to open it a bit for you so that you can understand. And they're calling it a deadly trap. In Raqqa, a family is shattered after their father, a matatu driver, was duped into traveling to Russia for a job only to be forced into military service and killed on the front line in Ukraine. The grief exposes a far wider crisis. Africans are being swept into a covert Russian recruitment pipeline that preys on poverty and desperation. Security officials and global analysts say Moscow is targeting vulnerable populations to plug its troop shortages while shielding Russians from the true cost of war. Governments are now being asked to urgently protect citizens from this deadly dragnet. And I'm also seeing a statement from The Standard that help, we are dying. Now, Mr. President, don't turn your back. And I'll also read, as the world's deadliest war grinds on, Kenya's forgotten sons are bleeding on the Russian front lines, trapped by deceit and abandoned by diplomacy. President William Ruto and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who vowed swift action nearly 2 weeks ago, have gone silent as families drown in anguish, begging for news of their children. Then I read one message from someone, then we move on. Always make peace among you and never create enemies. Do not bother your mom. Take care of them and be a good big brother to your young siblings. You are the one I am leaving here as I go. What Martin Mashagwa told his son James Mutonga before leaving for Russia. This story has been all around, and the questions has been like, maybe from me, why do you have to take desperate people or very poor people from here to the front line of battlefields in Russia? And we also mentioned the issue of cattle rustling around is it Baragoi or Elgeyo Marakwet, those regions, whereby we are not able to curb, we are not able to stop the insecurities that are taking place in our region, but we are able to take people from here to Russia. And I think from here to Russia, with the cost of transport and movement to Russia, I think from here to Russia, I think it's around 8,000 kilometers, 8,000 and above kilometers. And you can't take someone like this. There is this Mzee, or was a matatu driver taken from just Ruaka here, and you can't take someone from Ruaka to maybe Elgeyo Marakwet, which will cost not more than 2,000 shillings, Kenyan shillings, but you're able to take someone from here to Russia and to put them at the front line, so that if anything happens, if they're attacked, they just end at that. And we're looking at the promises and of our President William Ruto and the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. They had promised, actually we've been hearing the cries of these are people who were taken to Russia some good times ago. And if at all they have any plea, if at all they lament to the government that took them to that region. And I'm looking at how big and how financially able Kenya is and how Russia is, and you can look at the difference. I think Russia is bigger, Russia is more developed than our country, but you're taking so poor, so desperate people to such place. I want you to imagine taking a matatu driver to that place, and maybe they are not paid such, because we are looking at the word they are duped. It's like someone played a lot of tricks to them to make sure that they are there, maybe promising them a lot, a bigger package for them. They just left what they saw, they were doing to make sure that maybe they find greener pastures in Russia. And
we need to talk about how we got here, because I think it is important that we understand how did we get to this point where Kenyans are being recruited to fight a war that they have got no interest in, that they have got no love for lack of a better word. Now, Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2023, and it's been now 2 years plus where Russia and Ukraine are still, engaging in wars and in drums of war. There's a whole lot of geopolitics around that, where Russia feels Ukraine, should not be part of NATO, and that Ukraine needs to remain independent, because back in the USSR days, Ukraine was part of Russia before it split, and then you've got Russia, you've got Ukraine. In Ukraine, you've got netizens in Ukraine who speak Russia. In Russia, you've got some of the netizens who may speak a bit of Ukraine. So that's the geopolitics of it. But now, this is a war where both Russia and Ukraine have lost. We've got Ukraine soldiers and Ukraine citizens who have lost their lives. We've also got Russia soldiers and Russia citizens who have lost their lives. And now it's a point of no one wants to back down. Putin does not want to back down. Neither does Volodymyr Zelensky want to back down. So we're getting into a point where they need that manpower. So how do you get that manpower? Because this is your country, you've been fighting. Some people are tired, others just want to go on with their lives. But still, you need people to fight for you. And so you can, one, if you want, you can hire external sources to come in and help you at a cost. But the thing is, these people that are being taken have not been consulted. They have not been told what it is that they will be going to do exactly. You're just told, come for a job to Russia. Could be a hotel job, could be a security job, whatever job. But you're not being told that you're going to fight a Russian war. And so that is how we got to this particular point. And I remember, I believe last month as well, the Standard highlighted the stories on some of the people that went to Russia, some of them got injured, came back home, and they went through recruitment agencies. And that is where the big catch is. Because the recruitment agencies, some of them are operating outside the law, are operating illegally, and they're out for commercialization and for the money aspect of it. We've seen so many people leave the country, go out through the right way, through the right recruitment agencies, and they're doing just fine. But we've also had cases of some who are going even to the Middle East, countries like Lebanon, countries like Oman, Dubai, Qatar, but they end up, suffering. And so there are some who have been duped by recruitment agencies to go to Russia. And one of the stories I remember Standard did was of a gentleman who thought he was going, there's a group, they thought they were going for jobs as in hotels, and they get to the airport, their passports are taken away, they're taken to rooms, they're signing documents written in Russia they don't understand. After that, they're taken to military camps for training, and then you're being put on the front line of a war. You have no way to access or to communicate with your family. You have no way to communicate even with the embassy. I mean, it's just a whole con. Right from the start, right from the moment you express your interest, you're being conned all the way to that point. And the worst part is that the money is being sent out, but it's not being sent out to the families. It's actually being sent out to the recruitment agencies. And a big chunk of it, more than 100,000 shillings per month is salary. Talk about those that have been injured, and there's a compensation package for it. And then some of the recruitment agencies put the money in their pocket. I mean, it's a long con. And this needs to stop, because I believe when you're fighting a war, it needs to be a war that means something to you. It needs to be a war that means something to you. So as a Kenyan on the front line of a Russian war, you're fighting Ukraine, and somebody must be thinking, so you're fighting this, why exactly, why you're fighting? So it's a long con, and we hope that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, led by the Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi, may actually get to the root cause of this. I believe that we can catch this at a point of the recruitment agencies, because these are the people that are taking innocent Kenyans out of the country, and they are going to die there.
And this kind of desperations in there, you are duped from what you're doing, and you're promised a good package when you go there. You're not trained, or even if you get to be trained, remember it has to be vigorous. It has to be a very swift training, because we are in urgent, like these people, it's like they are trying to fill up. It's like their military is not fit, or even their number is lacking. There is. So it's like you have to be trained maybe for 1 week.
And then you're put
in the front line of a war. What do you expect? And I remember, I'm looking at the first page of the Standard, whereby I am a father, I'm promised a good job in Russia. Then I have to leave my family back, and before I go, I take the bigger son or the bigger daughter or the firstborn, and I tell them, please be good to your siblings. Please take care of your mother. That is the advice I'm giving to my children or to my family as I go. This message I'm giving to my family, I think, looks like the final message. And as I go, I feel that I'm going to bring something better and good for my family. But I'm going and going, not coming back. And this is done through our government, through our recruitment agencies. Why can't we, and maybe from the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, and Labour as well, Alfred Mutua, why can't these people be strong enough to make sure that they pause or even stop all this from happening? Because it becomes a very big regret for me, maybe for this family from Ruaka. They've been maybe surviving from hand to mouth, which is better than your father is gone to Russia. You will not see him
even
for
small income is taken away.
Imagine. So I think, and our president should be very keen to listen into every plea, into every lamentation, into every complaint that we get from his people, because I'm looking at it in future 2027, whereby he'll be in need of us. But if we can't take care of these people who he knew very that, and he forced, remember when you're talking about the international jobs, he's very clearly saying that he took these people to Russia in his bottom-up agenda and model. So I think he's not doing the right thing, and if he should do, you need to be very careful and to act very swiftly. Because remember, they were promised 2 weeks, an action will be taken, but it has not been for that long time.
It's really about goodwill. It's really about goodwill from the two ministries, Ministry of Labour as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I know diplomats will talk to you about the kind of relationship Kenya and Russia has, and how perhaps, this is a country that deals massively with wheat flour, that deals massively as well with things like fuel. And so there are those diplomatic, I'd say, aspects and conditions that may hinder Kenya really stretching its hand into matters to do with Russia. But at the end of the day, I mean, let's just be human and think about these families and think about these people that they want to come back home. They want to come back home. Help them come back home and help them rebuild their lives back home. And it's it's just a very worrying trend, and we hope that this will be just the end of it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the description: vulnerable, poor, and desperate. Why should you take advantage of such a person? And if conditions and situations worsen from where you send them, you're not able to respond, you're not able to take any valid and convenient action to make sure that people are safe and maybe they are back. So I think this is clearly to mean, number one, you are not fully trained and you are not well equipped. So this is to mean what is taking you there is just protect maybe, or even fight for maybe a few hours before your death comes into finding you. So I think we need to do it carefully to make sure that we don't do it as an issue of depopulating our country, taking our people there into slavery through duping them into maybe bigger packages or even greener pastures.
Yeah, so that basically does it for us this morning from the newspapers. These are some of the stories that have been headlined. I will be keeping tabs with them as well. Today being the 2nd of December, we also got quite a very busy day as well ahead from various aspects of news. We'll be updating you in our subsequent bulletins, that is at 1 p.m. as well as later on in the day.
Thank you. And if you need to have more information as far as the newspapers are concerned, you just get a copy of maybe the daily or the standard newspaper for more information. Thank you for watching. And what is coming up next is Your Faith Today with the Reverend Felix Kavoy. Please don't go too far.
All right, see you. My name is Cynthia Nanjala.
I'm Jeffrey Kimayu.